Today we are very honored to have the opportunity to listening the sharing of representatives, principals, and teachers from Anji County and Zhejiang and other provinces. Two keywords I heard are discovery and change. What kind of change? Change in the relationship between the teacher and the children, change in the image of children. Then what kind of change we didn't hear? We didn't hear anyone say that we need to change the children. Actually, we have experienced all these changes that happens on ourselves. This probably is not the same as traditionally what we did. What we need to change, what we need to respect is ourselves, and we need to respect the children. We have another very important team to share about the change in the environment. And they are actually helping Anji to implement a construction project. Now let's welcome the designer of the Architecture Institute of Oli Architecture. Dear experts, leaders, you probably are very tired, so we just briefly shared with you from a very different perspective. We are going to share with you about architecture. Firstly, I would like to introduce you our company. Our company was established 8 years ago. We have done a lot of projects of museum and art museum. My partner and I used to be the assistant of Bei Yuming, and we designed a lot of museums. That's the Islamic Museum in Doha and also the museum in Suzhou as well. So these are the projects we did before. When we designed the museum architecture, we also followed the concept of Mr. Bei. What is important is that for design, we don't have any fixed idea beforehand. We hope to reflect the local nature of the environment and the culture. We hope to have a deeper understanding of the functions of the local buildings and the local architecture before we design. This time, in 2015, my good friend Jesse called me in June. He said that you should go to Anji to look at Anji play. At that time, I was really busy, so I told him that, can you wait for a while? And he said that you can't wait because you are going to miss a revolution. Then at that time, I was thinking, serious? A revolution? So in 2015, on the last day of the summer holiday, I went to the Jiguan kindergarten in Anji County. I saw the children in Anji play. What is most amazing to me is that they draw the graphs and they build the structures and they did some reflections as well. As architect, many architecture students couldn't really draw a blueprints, and they have very poor capacity in cooperating with each other. So the capacity and the skills shown by these children are really amazing and impressive to me. So I felt I was lucky that I didn't miss the revolution. And then we also visited some of the kindergartens in Anji County. At that time, I talked to Ms. Chen. The play of children were very, very interesting. However, it seems that there is some distance between the space and the children. That means there is still a gap in the building and the environment. Then in the future, can we do a project so that we can bridge the environment with the children? As an architect in Zhangwu, we had a land. A kindergarten will be built up, and an early childhood center will be built up. So as an architect, we want to disrupt all the traditional thinking. We want to combine the architecture with the blocks. And we also think that can we actually turn the whole process of design and construction into a play? We don't want to follow the traditional approach of design. Next, my colleague is going to talk about our concepts of architecture and also those designs we have already completed. When we think about design in Anji, we also felt that the architecture in Anji doesn't need to be very perfect. The formality is not important. As the previous speakers mentioned, we want to leave some space for imagination of the children, and we want to have enough space for observation of children. We don't want to over-design our space. There should be some design suitable for play. Maybe the God is also blessing Anji Play. In 2016, in Zhangwu area, we were trying to find a land to build up an early childhood education center. And then in the homeland of Wu Changshuo, just opposite the hometown of Mr. Wu Changshuo, there was a land along the river and the mountains. In the front, there is a river, and at the back, there's mountain. This is a pure land, and there are no buildings that need to be removed at all. This land was waiting there quietly for Anji Kindergarten. Next, my colleague is going to share with you the design concept and the design process we have.
We start all other projects. We started to rationalize the program and draft some floor plans and also making 3D in our precise softwares. And of course, because this was a kindergarten building, we wanted to make it playful.
当然，一般来说，建筑设计在设计之前呢，之初我们会考虑它的一些功能，然后呢，做一些平面的布置啊等等。
So the gentleman is actually doing the interpretation for the lady.
那是我们在团队刚刚开始进行一个建筑的布局。
When we talked with Anji Play team, we found that the schemes that we had actually was not in the right direction.
这样的设计过程呢，反反复复，我们每次都会跟陈老师在沟通。其中有一次的沟通呢，我们感觉当时走的路。 其实有点错误。
After talking to Anji Play team, what we found that we are missing actually was the Anji Play spirit from all the schemes that we had at that time.
其中可能是最严重的一个错误呢，就是我们感觉我们还是在做一个传统的建筑设计，它慢慢的有点偏离了安吉游戏这个主要的精神跟它的一个主题。
We knew that we are missing that soul, but we didn't know how should be the approach to get that result.
我们觉得安吉游戏这个幼儿园的建筑呢，好像缺少它的灵魂，但我们当时又很难摸准到底它的灵魂是怎样。
One day we asked ourselves, why not be like Anji Play kids? They create so many inspirational architecture and structure in everyday play, and they are architects with no degree and natural builders with no barrier for any rules or norms.
我们觉得可能我们应该向安吉的小朋友学习，因为虽然他们没有大学的文凭，但是他们也在造房子，而且做出一些很有意义的构造。所以呢，我们也改变了我们的设计一种策略，通过观察安吉小孩子搭建的一些不同的一些构造物。
So their architecture is the natural result of imagination, and we were thinking, why can't we make as endlessly magical architecture as their creation?
所以我们觉得，从安吉小朋友他们搭的构造，我们应该感觉到建筑应该是一个有趣的一个空间，而不是为做建筑而做建筑。因此呢，我们希望安吉幼儿园应该是一个非常充满童趣的一个为儿童设计的空间。
So we decided to experience like a hands-on experimental process, and we bought a clay, and actually we dared to play.
所以呢，我们去掉了电脑制图，买了一堆橡皮泥、纸和纸来做不同的模型、不同的构造，来考虑它的空间的形成。
We started to build, mount, and put trees, bamboos, and then finally we placed the blocks as an architecture unit in the landscape.
所以慢慢的，我们也通过功能的要求，当然有沙、有水、有建筑、有景观，通过这样一种不同的一种与众跟以前我们都不太一样的工作方法，形成了安基幼儿园的一个布局。
And we found that we are finding ourselves experiencing the space and imagining ourselves in those spaces. We could imagine ourselves playing in those spaces.
当然，通过这样一种过程呢，我们也慢慢的找到了我们自己的儿童时代，我们希望能够进入的空间。这样的话呢，这样设计的空间也能够是为儿童设计的空间。所以，可能我们慢慢的，我们的团队都找到了自己内心深处的儿童。
And that was the first time that we could experience the joy of discovery and freedom.
所以呢，在这个当中呢，我们就找到了一个设计的自由度。
And we had a designer, she's Hershey's daughter. At the moment, she was 8-year-old, and then she was making some models by our sides. And what we learned from her actually was we should let the architecture to make mistake and how imperfection can be perfect.
有时候周末的时候，冈本的女儿当时8岁，也会到工作室，也搭了一些模型。所以呢，通过儿童的介入呢，我们以后感受一下儿童对于空间的他的一个思维，他的考虑。
And the more we built the models and the more that we talked with Anji Play team, we found there's no barrier and there's so many and endless possibilities for what we are creating because it's a result of our imagination.
所以呢，慢慢的我们也会，刚刚照片是跟那个 Jessie 的沟通，我们呢互相的这种沟通以后呢，慢慢我们也寻找到了在设计过程当中的这种娱乐性，包括它的自由性，而且是没有任何限制的这样一种建筑设计。
Hello. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the specifics of the site and a little bit about the design thoughts behind it. And as my colleagues have said, when we first started, we went down several different roads, and we realized that the normal path that we really designed was not going to cut it. And we were a little bit paralyzed. We were like, there's no purpose-built Anji Play building. So we had to rethink how to think about architecture. And
所以当时就像我们刚刚说的，整个设计过程呢是一个反反复复的过程。所以呢，我们也不断的要否定自己，而且是我们很心甘情愿的是否定了自己，在这个过程当中寻找一个正确的做安吉游戏的这个道路。I want to add one, I think it was 2016 before Christmas, we had a meeting until midnight. Was working with Ms. Chang, and in the beginning we were all happy talking about the design, but at midnight the room was
bad.
It was silent because everything we discussed at 7 o'clock had changed by midnight. Ms. Chang gave us a very deep discussion, which I still remember, and the exact words she said was, children are gifts from God, and when we design, we have to respect children. It's not about what we want to design as architects in terms of form making, it's really to make space for children. 我刚刚说的就是在差不多16年的时候，我记得在圣诞节之前，我们有一次跟陈老师的一次设计汇报，在7点的时候开始的时候呢，大家也很高兴愉快了，持续到半夜的时候呢，整个会议的设计的方向完全改变了。我记得会议室是一片的沉静，因为陈老师从开始的大家的讨论、略微的肯定，到最后半夜时候的全部的否定，而且当时陈老师说的最核心的几句话，我至今还记得。他说：“儿童是上帝赐予我们的礼物，因此我们在设计空间的时候，必须放下 所有之前的固定的思维要为他们设计，要向他们学习，这样设计的空间才是能够发自内心的。所以呢，虽然当时对我们团队来说是一个很大的改变，但是我们也在半夜时候，我觉得是一个对我们来说是一个心甘情愿的改变，也是很重要的，对这个项目来说一个转折点。It was a turning point at the midnight point before the Christmas.
That's right. So we wanted to rethink, and we couldn't figure out what to do. So we're thinking, what is, as we showed that slide, this most elemental form of architecture, architecture without architects or educated architects. And we wanted to break down the elements of Anji play. So the idea of mound play or verticality and experiencing gravity, or the idea of sand play and how it could be used with water and the change of states and materials can be experienced.
所以我们也不断的在试验，在调整。所以呢，慢慢的我们觉得可能是从山地的设计、沙地的设计，包括水流、树林等等，跟建筑这种融合，才能够形成安吉游戏的空间。
So we had this beautiful site and we knew the elements made sense. We just wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So the trees also, trying to preserve some of the trees, plant new trees within it.
所以那块地上呢，因为它有一些大的树，我们希望呢能够保留一些树，同时呢把建筑跟它的地形、自然形态充分的结合。
And of course, bamboo.
当然会有很多的竹子。
So these elements started to add up for us, even the farming or farming landscape and the planting around the actual buildings.
包括还有一些农耕的一些地。
And of course, the rubberized areas that we saw in all the kindergartens. These were all the elements that we saw in many of the kindergartens that we're visiting while
还
we're
有一
doing
些
the
橡
design.
胶、塑胶的一些开放场地。
So we thought, okay, what is the missing element? And you saw this slide before of kind of a diagram with the landscape and kids playing and then the blocks of buildings. And we really thought the architecture can be one of those elements, something that affords a little more than the natural landscape.
所以可能跟传统建筑思维不一样，比如说会先有建筑，再有景观。在这里，我们把所有的元素作为它的设计的组成部分，而建筑呢只是其中的一部分。这样的话，它们共同组成了一个游戏空间。
And it would be important to say that we're visiting many sites. We're also touring with Ms. Chung and some of the educators. We saw quite a few kindergartens, and we really thought in this site we wanted to break down the homeroom into individual homes.
所以呢，当时我们也跟陈老师有了很多的交流，同时呢，也看了其他的一些幼儿园。我们决定在这里，安吉幼儿园，张武的安吉幼儿园呢，我们希望它的幼儿园每个班级呢是一个家园，所以呢，我们把它的教室呢称为家园。而且，我想补充一下，就是这个跟中国传统的幼教的，包括建筑规范都有点不同。因为中国传统的幼儿园呢是一般3层，加上前面的开放阳台的建筑规范是这样的描述，会成这样的空间。在这次呢，我们希望它的空间是打破了传统幼儿园的这种设计方法。In addition to what you said, in this case, the Chinese building code is written for all the kindergarten to be all more or less the same, of 3-story with open balcony. In this case, we want to make sure we're doing something very different. We identify each classroom as homeroom, and the whole campus will be composed of little homes, as if kids are going home.
Yeah. Also, the idea that we didn't have a specific place for sand and a specific place for trees or water, but we wanted to blend these things in, and we thought of the idea of blending and blurring as one of the elements that we can bring into our architecture.
另外呢，可能跟之前的安吉幼儿园有所不同的，我们也没有完全的分开，它有沙地、有丘陵或者是水道，我们把它全部融合在一起，是这样一个各个元素都跟建筑融合在一起的这样一个空间。
But we also knew from the past experiences going through the design process, the architecture for us should not be precious. It also had to live. and it wasn't just the architecture that made Anji play, it's actually the kids. So the idea that the architecture is part of that support system where the weather or some phenomenological event or the actual weathering of the building, things living was really much a very big part of what we wanted to do. So this section became one of the go-to kind of reflective diagrams that we always had.
我们也希望这个建筑它不是凝固的，它是一个活态的空间。在它的形成之后，它建成以后，它应该能够儿童在这里能够感受自然，感受建筑。同时呢，它的建筑呢，它只是一个载体。最主要的是未来呢，在这里会有很多儿童在这里的玩耍。所以呢，我们觉得并不是一个。 我们不希望创造一个伟大的建筑，而希望呢，我们在这里呢，创造有不同的、有很多可能性的一个幼儿空间。
So we got pretty good. We got a little more confident, but every time we would step forward, there would be times when we look back and be like, you know, it's a little bit too designed. It's too precious. It's over-designed. And this diagram always came back to us, and we were rethinking what we were doing. So it was always an iterative process, but a lot of it was actually stepping back.
这张图呢，当时是显示就是在这个建筑会有跟不同的气候、不同的环境，各种交融的这样一种互动的这个感觉。而且呢，在设计过程当中呢，我们永远是在平衡设计与过于设计这个之间。每次我们做的设计呢，我们会要反思是否过于设计。我们希望这个建筑它不是一个过度讲究形式或者是过于设计这样一个建筑，而能够走一步退两步的这样一种设计过程。
So we got pretty good at playing, and especially with the homerooms. We have 16 homerooms. This is actually a holiday card that we made in between the design phase. It says Happy Holiday, OLI, but one of our designers wanted to design one of our holiday cards, so we came up with that design.
刚刚那张是一张那个贺年卡，因为我们在这个项目呢有16个班级，所以呢，在这个呢，以那个当时的那个设计形态呢，做了这张当年的那个贺年卡。
So we were having fun as well. So a little bit more about the actual architecture, because there's a lot of the development of play, exterior play, but we also thought of how we can bring the play inside to the homerooms and to the actual buildings. And so we were thinking about the diagrams, the bleeding and blurring, of course, kind of transitional spaces, transformable spaces.
另外一个重要的理念呢，我们希望这里的空间呢，它并不是一个室内室外完全分开的空间，特别在第一层呢，应该是一个室内室外比较交融的这样一个空间。所以呢，儿童呢，既可以在户外玩，也可以在室内玩耍，而且呢，第一层就成为一个半室内半室外的这样一个空间。
Always thinking about visual sight lines, but also thinking about varying scales for the occupants.
另外呢，尺度也是很重要的。我们希望它能够首先，它跟周边的自然环境有充分的交流，同时呢，有的空间的尺度呢是为儿童设计的它的尺度，而不是一个成人的尺度。
And we also thought about the material, the place. We always think about this in our architecture, but we're inspired very much by the site, of course, the beautiful environment, but also thinking about how perhaps trees that were actually on the site can actually become part of the building.
所以呢，我们在材料方面呢，也希望能够用一些基地上的一些自然的材料，同时呢，也用比较简单的一些自然材料来进行这个建筑的设计。
Or using concrete, cast concrete that we're adept at, but it's an honest material, but using actual natural materials to cast it, and then actually using the architecture to become part of the playscape.
刚刚讲的材料，我们希望在这里呢，它是一个比较简单，不是做作的这样一个建筑，所以呢，回到人类最古老的材料混凝土，我们在这里呢也会用一些混凝土，而且我们会用不同的模板，包括竹子啊、木材啊，做它的表面的一个处理。
But of course, we had a program that we worked very hard with Ms. Chung to get to. There are program spaces for 30 kids, a transformable classroom, a sleeping area, a mezzanine area, and these were the building blocks that we talked about that actually we started to play with and the situations within certain areas in our site. So this is a tree tower homeroom that we thought of when we were looking at the different areas of the actual design.
所以一共有16个班级，16个家园，每个家园呢会有它的一些功能要求，包括底层的一个开放空间，2层、3层的一个休息睡觉空间，而且呢，它也会跟周边的一些沙丘啊、山地啊形成关系。
And again, the same blocks, but in a mound area.
所以呢，有的地方的入口并不是一个门走进去，有可能是小的山洞钻进去。在这里呢，我们希望建筑是各种可能皆有。
And then again on a hill.
这是在坡地上的一组家园。
Or with the farmland integrated with it.
这是跟农地结合的一个家园。
And in a bamboo area.
这是跟竹林结合的一个家园的模式。
And then we also started to look at the interior a little bit further and the vernacular of the local architecture, especially the hill architecture, sense of scale and level changes, but trying to create actual interiors for a kid scale or kid-friendly interior.
所以在室内呢，我们是参考了浙江的一些民居的传统做法，同时呢，介入了刚刚说的一个尺度。我们希望在室内呢，有的空间呢，只有儿童才能进入的这样一个儿童的尺度的空间。所以呢，室内跟室外是一个贯通的这样一个过程。
So this is where we are at this moment, which I say because it's always evolving.
目前呢，这个幼儿园已经开始施工了。这个是一个模型的照片，就是在这个阶段，我们觉得这个设计的这个阶段当下的这样一个状态。
This is the phase 1 part, which is the kindergarten part. There's a phase 2 that's more the teaching research area.
这个项目一共分成2期，一期呢是幼儿园部分，2期呢是会议中心啊、研究部分。
And as I showed you before about the tree area, the bamboo area, the mound area, these were prototypes that we started with thinking that we can keep most of it. And we had 5 clusters, A, B, C, D, F, and G, sorry. And what turned out to be 5 prototypes became 39 individual buildings.
我们一共有5组不同的一种布局，经过组合以后呢，形成了16个家园的建筑。
So exciting for architects, very scary for business owner, architect. So.
虽然这个建筑将会很有意思的建筑，但于作为公司的老板来说，也是一个很头痛的一件事情。这设计变得非常的复杂。
So you could see the clusters from A would be the entrance. This is more the administrative. There's an assembly hall. There's a large rubberized surface area. There's sand and water running through. But as you saw in our diagrams, we really try to blend these elements together, bleed those experiences, and afford different types of experiences that weren't dictated.
所以上面的纽带部分呢，是它的主要的入口。账务的正在河的对面。那么中间呢，会有不同的布局的一些16个家园的教室，同时呢，也穿插了一些艺术教室，还有一些开放空间。
But again, as I said, that's where we were. We're doing play as we construct as well. We're doing a lot of mock-ups, and we have a full-time colleague, Wang Xiaoyu, who's actually on the site full-time now, helping with the construction.
所以这个是一些目前施工场地的一些照片，我们在试验混凝土的一些做法。所以呢，那些木纹的刚刚说的木纹混凝土的一些墙，做的是一个试验。我们的同事王小雨呢，是我们派了一个建筑师专门驻现场来监督整个建筑的施工过程。
Again, using some of the local materials to actually use in the construction and cast with. Also, local technique. We had this technician, I think he came by.
这是在做一个竹编的这个材料的一个编织，对吧？
对，是当地的一种传统手法，然后是他们就是在现场编织，然后直接使用在建筑上来浇筑混凝土，来留下这个手艺的图案。
And this is a picture about 3-4 weeks ago, which is this cluster.
目前正在做基础的一些施工，幼儿园部分，这是差不多三个星期前的照片。
This is the aerial. This is about 2 months ago, actually.
这是整个基地的一个鸟瞰。
And this was the state of design when we ended our design kind of phase at one point. And I say this where I said this is the state of it because we always think we went through this process. It was very much a relearning process and a play process. But the principles are there. Perhaps if we go through this again, it may evolve even more. But we also know that 39 buildings, there's no way we're going to document it the way that we usually do with a museum or some other building. And we didn't want to. It wasn't about creating this precious glass and metal building. We wanted this to actually evolve. We created certain rules or guidelines for construction, but we very much are depending also on the people who are doing the construction and Xiaoyu to execute some of that. And we look forward to the evolution of this as much.
这是其中一张效果图，将来形成是这样一个幼儿园空间。这是一个建筑的过程，我们希望呢能够，它是一个对我们来说也是一个不断发展的一个过程。目前正在施工，在这个未来的2年呢，我们可能在2年以后完成之前呢，会不断的参与它的一个施工，做一些现场的调整，直到最后完成，儿童入住。
So we look forward to seeing you all in 2 years, and it is to be continued. So thank you very much.
希望2年以后建成后再见。